What do you do when you find out your partner's been lying about their finances for at least 5 years? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, I don't like my partner as a person anymore. Me, 38-year-old female, my partner, 42 non-binary, we've been together for 10 plus years and they've changed so much over the years. The main thing that hurts me a lot is they make a point to put down things I enjoy all the time, every single day. Every day they go on a real-life Twitter troll rant opposing something I enjoy. They talk over me a lot too, completely bulldoze over me in conversation, whether it be a band I like, a show I'm watching, a friend that I hang out with. They have to make a point to tell me about how much they dislike that thing. I am so sad and exhausted. I don't know what to do, honestly. We live together, I can't afford to get a new apartment, and I feel like everything I do is judged and I don't ever fully feel comfortable in my own home. I've brought up this issue many times. They apologize, but nothing changes. They go right back to this pattern. So obviously the real problem I'm seeing is, OP's told them about this, they've said, hey, this is hurting me when you do this. And they apologize, so they recognize it at least, but then they don't actually work on anything. Are they just apologizing just to get it to go away for now? Or considering it's a repeated pattern, I would almost just say it's kind of his personality. And unless you think this guy can really just completely change who he is at his core, it might become a thing where you've got to decide whether or not you want to stick around and put up with that. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy tricky relationship topics, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, it upsets me when my, female 24, boyfriend, male 25, sees me eating alone at work and still chooses to sit with his team. How do I not act so childish? My boyfriend started a great engineering job here last month. He's on a team of 20 people. My workplace is fairly cliquey. Everyone sticks to people within their team and department for the most part. I saw this firsthand during my training as I was based in an office for 8 weeks and always had breakfast and lunch with people around me. Now I'm based as a receptionist in a quiet building, doing work for those people who are now 10 plus minutes away from me. Big site. No one else is based where I am. My admin work is totally solo. I miss having work friends like I always have in my old jobs. I'd say I've had lunch all of 10 times with people since I moved to this quieter building 6 months ago. This only really happens if someone is waiting for a delivery or a visitor at reception and asks me if I want to tag along. My boyfriend always has people to go to breakfast or lunch with because big team. I see him laughing with them as I sit alone wishing I had company. I also feel embarrassed that my boyfriend sees me alone and doesn't bring me over or go sit with me. One of the janitors I'm friendly with asked me why he won't sit with me when I sit alone. He's seen this a few times, and I feel ashamed. I tell myself it's only because he's professional. He needs to network, but it's hurtful when he asks why I'm so hungry after work. And I'd say I had no one to go with, so I didn't go. He'll say nothing or, gee, if I'd known I would have gone, when he knows I have no one to go with. Always. How do I stop feeling jealous of my boyfriend? If OP wants to sit with somebody, honestly, I don't think it's too weird, especially if you're in a known relationship with your boyfriend, to ask him or see if you could go over there and sit with them while they're at lunch. I don't see why that would be too crazy of a thing. This isn't supposed to be like middle school cliques that are like, ew, you're one of those icky receptionists, stay over there at your table. Amaranthesk said, first and foremost, start eating your meals even if you don't have company. This probably would not feel like as big a deal if you weren't actively letting yourself skip meals and feel physically terrible. After that, ask your partner about these team lunches. Are they for work talk or social time? Does anyone else ever invite people from other teams or departments to join them? If these are mostly work discussions or he never sees anyone else invite friends from other groups, then as a new employee, it would not be a good idea for him to start inviting his girlfriend along. A better idea would be for you to plan on, say, 1 day a week or month when he skips the team lunch to eat with you. In the best case scenario, a coworker says, hey, just invite her over with us. But if not, spending some of his lunches with you would be perfectly reasonable once he's been there a while and established his coworker relationships and his reputation. However you two work this out, you cannot count on him to be daily meal company for you, so separately you have to work on being able to eat lunch on your own. This next story is, parents won't take ownership of mistreating my wife. My wife and I are in our 40s and have been married for 20 years. We have one early teen son. We recently moved back to my hometown about 2 miles from my parents. My wife has basically tolerated their behavior for years. They just seem not to like her. They interrupt when she speaks, argue about small things she says, makes comments about her under her breath, and manipulate to see their grandson. I've admittedly done a horrible job at standing up for her and confronting them. I put my head in the sand, and that bad strategy is coming back to bite me now that we live nearby, although we're going to move this year. Last Thanksgiving, my mom told my wife not to bother making food because nobody in her family likes what she makes, insinuating that my wife is not part of the family. My wife then did not come to any holidays. My mom left on a 2-month vacation without resolving it, and now does nothing more but deflect and excuse her behavior. Instead of apologizing, she'll send my wife occasional texts saying, "We need to talk," and then she'll get mad when my wife doesn't respond. At the same time, I realized how unhappy my wife was and how I actually treat her in some of the same ways because of what was modeled for me. We were near divorce until I thankfully recognized this with the help of a therapist. I've changed a ton in a year and have done the hard work of reconciling with my wife, who has been very forgiving and gracious. Don't roast me too much for having a blind spot for 20 years. She tried to tell me over and over again and I just never understood. I take full responsibility, but there are other deep factors like trauma response from chronic abuse, not at the hand of my parents, etc. But my parents still treat her the same and can't see it. They just think she is too sensitive and the only person who has ever complained about the way we treat them, and that this is some mutual conflict that they should both apologize for. My mom even pulled out the old "Bible says to forgive and forget" chestnut last week. My mom asks to see our son every day via text and wants me to spend time with her and my dad like we used to, as if nothing is wrong. I've tried confronting them and explaining the situation many times, but I have serious doubts about their desire or capacity to change. My mom last time was just like, "Well, I saw a counselor once who told me to text her and she's the one that's not texting me back." I could easily explain to my mom what she's doing wrong and give her the exact script and a plan to actually apologize and repair, but that seems inauthentic and won't lead to lasting change. It's not my job to parent her, but we can't go on like this. I'm basically avoiding and ignoring them until I figure out what our relationship needs to look like, but I know that's not super mature or helpful. I feel like OP's kind of going a bit to both sides in this situation. They see and they witness what their parents are doing. They have a full understanding of the fact that their parents are the ones wrong here. But OP hasn't really shown, at least from what I've read, to be standing up for their wife in any meaningful way. If OP wants some actual change or maybe consideration from them, tell them how it is and tell them stuff like seeing your kid is not realistically going to happen until you start treating your family as a whole with respect. Broken Paw said, "How you proceed is you protect your wife. If they treat her badly, then don't allow situations to arise where they'll have the opportunity. If that means only spending time with them when you go alone to visit them, that's what it means. If that means cutting them out of your life because they cannot own their own behavior, that's what it means. If that means that your son grows up without his grandparents in his life because those grandparents cannot treat his mother properly, that's what it means. Because if they are awful to her, he will learn 1, that it's okay to be awful to her, and that 2, you will not do anything about it, which will eventually inform his behavior toward her. Stop allowing these people to play the guilt card to get out of the legitimate consequences of the choices they make. Remove them from your life, your wife's life, and your son's life, to whatever extent is necessary to keep all of you safe from the choices they make." This next story is, we're breaking up, but he only wants to talk around his family. This is because of his family. It's been 1 month since his, 33, family began ostracizing me, female 29. 4 weeks ago, I had gone on my first date during our divorce process. He got upset about it and abruptly took our baby to his parents' place at 8:30 p.m., baby's bedtime, told them all about my sex life, that I wanted a certain male anatomy-shaped object, had them yell and swear at me. Since then, his abuse had turned physical. On one occasion, he grabbed my wrist, twisted, and pulled me down to the floor while he was holding our baby. I made a report and the police have turned my case over to the DA. Finally, after his mom called me psychotic and yelled at my mom about how exhausting it all was, we have separated. My family has had to now rally behind me. They're breaking their lease to move into a new place with my baby and I. Getting them to understand the gravity of this situation was a journey. Today, I texted him to ask if we could finally speak in person. He said that he needed a witness, and I agreed on the condition that it could be a person outside of both of our families. He then said that he's no longer comfortable with the idea of conversing in person. I'm so shocked at how disagreeable he's been through this. He is attached at the hip to his mom, sister, and dad, and it's kind of gross. At this point, you leave any communication through your divorce lawyer as long as you have a divorce lawyer. I just don't think, considering the history, that it seems like anything productive is going to happen out of any one-on-one talk or even with a witness. This next story is, girlfriend cheated on her ex with multiple men. Hi everyone, my 29-year-old male, girlfriend, 23-year-old female, had cheated on her previous partner with 3 different men over a 2-month span, and had told me this fact early on in our relationship. We've been together for 2 years now. She told me how bad she felt and described her reasons why, mainly due to her partner. I have poked the topic quite a few times over the course of the last 2 years because I wanted to know all the details to ensure I could trust her. The fact that she openly told me about it early was a sign for me that she was looking to be a better person, so I continued the relationship. The only thing is, the more I poked, the more I found out she was lying to me about certain things. At first, she said it was only one man, and after originally asking her if there was more than one person, months later, she confessed there were 3. I shouldn't even say confess because I basically had to pry it out of her. There are quite a few little things that she has omitted, but just recently we got on the topic again, and we talked about how he found out. She originally told me that she went home and confessed to him on her own accord. She's now saying her partner found some text messages and then decided to confess. I'm having trouble with this, as originally my main reason for giving the relationship a fair shot was the fact that I thought she was being honest and open about it all, but in reality she was omitting the entire thing. It's really hurting my already present trust issues, and I'm questioning everything she says surrounding the topic. Any questions or advice here would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. So not only every step of the way of this story did she feel the need to omit or try to beautify her situation, make her look better, can we rewind to the very beginning and point out the fact that she said she cheated on this guy with 3 different people because of the partner? It was the partner's fault that she went out and did this? At this point, I feel like if I were in OP's shoes, I would be worried that she's been sleeping around the whole time at this point. Our next story is, I introduced my husband to golf, and now I feel jealous when he goes golfing without me. I, female, mid-30s, husband, male, early 30s. My husband travels a lot for work to the point that he spends more time overseas than around me. Sometimes he ends up in amazing places, and sometimes in not so good parts of the world. The job wasn't supposed to be a forever job, and he had assured me he'll only do it for a period of time. A few years passed and we got married. We really never fought and we got along very well. Since COVID, his time away from home was longer. We even spent all the pandemic in different countries. Also, due to the nature of his job, I cannot travel with him, and work schedule, we often than not, we have to spend every major festivity away from each other. Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, anniversaries, etc. This job was supposed to be for a few years, but is good money and he enjoys its perks. Hindsight 2020 is very clear to me that he will not be leaving this job anytime soon. Last year, we were having a really hard time connecting. We really weren't seeing eye to eye on things. I'm so grateful for therapy because we were able to pull through it, and now we're in a very good place. The therapist suggested us finding activities for us to do together and start bonding and having intimacy with each other. He's already into bowling and pickleball, but I saw those more like his hobbies. I started to do some research and I got very interested in golf, so I proposed for us to start going to golf courses and play together. Since the most we ever did was mini golf or top golf, we were doing amazing golfing together, and it gave us the opportunity to talk about various topics, bond and learn something new together while playing at a decent pace. We agreed this will be our little us time, and that we'll keep it as a couple's activity, just the 2 of us. We decided to also start collecting a chip or a golf ball from each course we visit. He brings home chips or golf balls from the courses he visits. Also, he's getting tons of practice because the weather overseas is better, while the weather here is kind of crappy. Now when we play together, it's not as enjoyable because I'm still a beginner and he rushes me and nitpicks on things I do. I don't have a problem on getting corrected, but he gets very obsessive on things sometimes. I really don't want to feel this way. I want him to live his best life, but I can't help feeling left behind and hurt. I guess my main question would be, has OP communicated how they're feeling at all? Like, if he's going and doing all of this, sure, I understand being annoyed by the behaviors, but at the same time, if you don't communicate that something about it is bothering you, besides maybe being a little too overcorrective, is he being a jerk? Strawberry said, I think you should have a talk with him about your feelings if you haven't already. I'm seeing a lot of resentment built up regarding his job and travels, and I don't see how your marriage can keep going as it is. I completely understand why you feel the way you do, though. The other thing is you're looking at golfing as a fun, carefree activity to do, while he's now treating it as a serious thing. You don't need or want corrections, and you need to tell him that and make him understand the time spent golfing is for you to get back in touch with each other. He's killing the mood by showing off and being patronizing. Honestly, does he enjoy spending time with you? Because it sounds like he's living an entirely different life now and doesn't even want to put any effort into the marriage. Was he equally looking for ways to spend quality time together, or did you do the work? OP responded saying, you have some valid points here. He has very selfish tendencies and lives very in the moment and very often forgets how that'll make me feel. Anything he does, he's just doing it because he gets himself carried away by the moment and opportunity, not necessarily to hurt me or thinking his actions will hurt me. He is very competitive and likes to be the best at what he does, kind of a winner mentality. When we're together, he likes to spend time with me and encourages me to participate on his hobbies. We were both looking for something new that we enjoyed. I just happened to land on the idea of golf faster than him. There was something about driving a cool cart and not running everywhere that made it more appealing to me. I will definitely have a talk with him about how I feel. Our next story is, my girlfriend, 21-year-old female, thinks I'm 23-year-old male, gay when I know I'm not. How do I go about this? As the title says, my girlfriend, 21-year-old female, thinks I'm 23-year-old male, gay, because no one has ever been able to make me finish in bed. Ever since I told her this, she's been acting strange towards me, even after I explained as to why. I'm 100% on my sexuality, but it's like she doesn't want to believe me. One of her friends went through something similar, and I think that's why she's being so weird. I'm not sure if I could keep dating someone that thinks of me in this way. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you in advance. If you're certain about who you are and what you're interested in, it's extremely weird for her to continue to insist like that. And frankly, if she's not willing to believe you, it might just be a deal breaker for this relationship. I mean, respectfully, maybe that kind of thing just isn't what she's wanting in a relationship. Either way, it's causing her to not be able to even respect you properly. Our next story is 25-year-old male's Indian parents went crazy when they found out about 27-year-old female white girlfriend. Advice? I, 25-year-old male, come from a very traditional South Indian Hindu family and am dating a 27-year-old female South American Jewish girl for the last 3 months. And we're pretty certain we want to get married in the future. I'm currently in grad school for another year, while she just started her career in law. Before we get comments about how it's only been 3 months and whether we're certain of each other, we've both communicated extensively and dated very intentionally and made plans for the immediate future, barring recent incidents. I know she's my person, and I don't want to be with anyone else. I've never felt like this with anyone else, and I know she hasn't either. I just know that I want to at least keep trying and hope we make it out. I previously had a girlfriend for 3 years, and the same thing might have happened, but I never introduced her. But I am very certain about this girl. Recently, I made the mistake of telling my parents about this girl, and their reaction was completely over the top. Aside from the usual threats of disowning, beatings, and cutting off any financial ties while I'm in school, they called or pretended to call her office and try and leave a voicemail. We definitely heard someone on the other end of the line, which I found to be crazy. I'm not sure what other wild things they might do in escalation and was concerned for her more than me. I'm kind of used to this growing up. My girlfriend heard the entire conversation, at least the parts in English, and didn't leave my side for a second. Honestly, just her presence and the thought that it might all be worth enduring if I end up with her gets me through this. To avoid any further harm to my girlfriend, I caved into their demand that I delete her number and cease all communication. Now they're trying to assert more control than usual with phone calls, video chats, and texts. Psych! I did not end things, and now we date in secret. My parents have made it clear that they will accept Hindu girls only, that are not older than me and are keen to set up introductory chats for me with other people. They were planning to talk to me about this. Our current plan is to continue dating until we're ready to take the next step, marriage, and then break the news then. I can't tell if they'll be more ticked off or about the same since I lied about ending things, but at least I have some idea of how they'll react after going through this. Her family knows about us and are updated on how my parents reacted. Obviously, they're not pleased. If they react similarly in the future, I plan to give them an ultimatum before escalating any further steps, since I wouldn't want my girlfriend to have to deal with this. How do we break this news in the future and be better prepared? We appreciate any advice that people may have, or stories from similar experiences on how to get through this. I mean, I would hate to see OP's parents continue to try to rip this girl's life apart. Also, even though OP's saying that they're absolutely confident, 3 months is still 3 months, and that's really not a lot of time. It's a complicated situation because the parents are probably going to try to keep coming after her, but at the same time, you don't want to fold and allow your parents to be able to control you like that. I think it's a fair question to ask yourself, is it fair to her what she's going to have to put up with, trying to continue to go forward with this? I mean, if she wants to, that's her choice. But bottom line, should not let your parents dictate and control your life, regardless. Our next story is, my boyfriend told me he has a body count of between 100 and 1,000. My boyfriend, 21-year-old male, and I, 18-year-old female, have only been dating for around 2 months now. He's pansexual and I'm bi. We were friends for a while before dating, and I'd known he liked having sex. He's traveled to a lot of countries, and I know he was a Grindr user. I was always intimidated about the number, especially because I was a virgin when we started dating. One day I asked him how many it actually was, and that's exactly what he said. He said he stopped keeping track a long time ago, and that number started getting too high to keep track of when he was only 15. When I asked him to ballpark it, that's what he told me, between 100 and 1,000. I'm so inexperienced, and obviously that is intimidating to hear, that my boyfriend has potentially slept with hundreds of people. We go to university together, and when we walk the campus and I see a queer person, I can't help but wonder if he's had sex with them. My best friend doesn't believe him and thinks he's making it up to seem cool or something, but I really don't think he would just lie about it. I guess what I'm getting at here is that since I've had no experience besides him, I get so nervous to hook up with him. How can I possibly live up to hundreds of people when I have no idea what I'm doing? I'm just wondering why OP's so hung up on the whole, how do I measure up against all these people he slept with, and not more on the side of, how do I get him to get tested so I know for sure somebody who loves sleeping around is actually clean? This next story is, my son, 19-year-old male, is having sex with an older man, 58-year-old male, and I feel hopeless. I'm using this account as a throwaway. This has been bugging me for a while now and I need to put it out somewhere. Since the start of February, I discovered my 19-year-old son has been seeing a 58-year-old man for sex. My son works at Burger King and the man has been a frequent visitor ever since he saw my son, apparently since December last year. After a while, they started getting along, and the man got my son's number and Facebook details. He invited him to his house and seduced him. I was shocked at first because I didn't know my son is into men, but he told me he's experimenting? And why with someone so old? I told him he's using him and to wear condoms at least and that I'm against it. My son doesn't like it. I'm a single mom and feel hopeless, like I can't do anything. I haven't told my friends or anyone because I'm embarrassed. It's eating me up inside. Can you recommend me how to put an end to this if possible, or should I just leave it be? So I think the problem is kind of with just about anything when your kid is an adult age and they're making their own decisions you don't agree with. The more you kind of scold them or try to force their hand, probably the more likely they're going to just continue to pull away further and maybe resent you for it. As uncomfortable as the situation is, I think it's just important to know you care about them, you obviously want them to stay protected, and if there's an emergency or anything's going on, no questions asked, don't have to explain yourself, I'll be there for you. Our next story is, my 28-year-old female, fiance, 29-year-old male, has committed financial infidelity. We've been together for 10 years. For at least the last 5, he's been lying to me about his finances. 5 years ago, we bought our house and it was uncovered that he was in a lot of credit card debt. I helped him to pay this down, probably around $11,000 to $13,000. I ended up putting the majority of the down payment down on the house, since he lied and wasn't saving any money at all. My credit score is excellent. I don't have debt other than student loans. We buy the house. I think I can trust him now that the cat was out of the bag. We move on with our lives. All is well. Fast forward to this year, about 2 weeks ago, he comes to me and tells me he's $40,000 in credit card debt and doesn't have a dollar to his name. We make the same amount of money, around $80,000 per year, and we paid off his debt a few years ago, so I thought. So I am super confused and dumbfounded and shocked. He tells me he was lying to me back then and that he had more. Not sure I believe this because finances are put out in the open when buying the house. Anyway, I'm not totally sure because it was so many years ago, but I just don't think it was this bad. Plus, I helped him pay it all down. So the situation now is this. We are 6 months from our wedding when he drops this bomb on me. He has no money for the wedding. He has no money at all. He had been lying to me for at least 5 years. He admits that. I have helped him with this once before and feel like I'd be stupid to get into this situation again. I will lose him, my best friend, and all I've known for the last 10 years, as I have no family. I lose my house. I lose everything I've worked for by ending this. The other option is I become his parent, monitoring all expenses, his paychecks, his credit reports, give him an allowance. To be honest, I don't want that for myself. That isn't partnership to me. I've always felt like the separate finances worked for us. That way I can buy whatever and he can buy whatever without us getting annoyed at the other. I like to shop, which is why this is so ironic. I'm the one who buys clothes, books, makeup, etc., and I have zero debt still. He has nothing to show for this debt he's in. He claims it's interest from years of making minimum payments, but like I said, I don't remember it being this much 5 years ago. He denies a gambling problem, but the math isn't mathing for this. I know he's made bets on things like FanDuel and gambling addiction does run in his family. However, we spend all our time together, so I have no idea how he could be gambling if that were the case. Another tidbit, we always put half our paychecks into our joint account, and this account is where expenses come out of, such as mortgage, bills, etc. It's never been a problem. I have plenty of money left over for savings and fun. I assumed he was the same boat as me. So my question is, what the freak do I do? I'm torn. I do love this man, but the lying for half the relationship, that's frightening, isn't it? Do we pick up the pieces? Wedding will need to be canceled regardless. Or walk away? Am I a freaking idiot for trusting the person I love to be able to handle their money? He's my best friend. I want to help him, but I'm also just so mad at him for all of this. I honestly don't even think you can trust him as to where the debt came from. And after he's shown that he's capable of lying about this for at least 5 years, how can you trust anything that's coming out of his mouth at this point? The things he's finally let loose and said are so expanded and ballooned, I don't think you'll ever be able to properly put it back in the box and have a normal functioning relationship again. This next story is my boyfriend, 25-year-old male, and I, 24-year-old female, are moving in together, and although I make substantially less, he wants to split rent down the middle. Hi everyone. As the title says, my boyfriend and I have been talking about moving in together for the last few months, as my lease ends in June, and the apartment complex I currently live in has given me many issues, i.e., no AC for a month, broken outlets, water leaks, etc. We've been together for almost 2 years now, so we decided it was good timing to move in together. I was always transparent with him about my income and the debt I'm in. $25,000 in student loans, $10,000 in medical bills, and so on. I work in the nonprofit world, so you can imagine that every cent I make matters. I'm living paycheck to paycheck and have maxed out my credit cards, but I somehow always pull through. My boyfriend, on the other hand, is a known realtor and investor in our city, and made $30,000 in the last month. I only know that because he let it slip during a dinner with friends. He never tells me about the amount of money he makes or anything related to his financial situation. All I know is that he makes good money and is able to buy houses in cash to sell and flip them. When talking about our budget for living together, I brought up my financial situation and how it would be really helpful if you could pay an additional $100 to $200 of the rent so I can allocate that money to my student loans and debt. He immediately said no. I'm sure I'm probably in the wrong here and shouldn't think too much about it, but it's left me with a knot in my stomach. I want us to have a future together, but anytime money comes into the question, he goes cold with me. This is how it was for my parents and is the reason for their divorce. I'm looking for advice on whether I should try to talk to him about how this made me feel or just move on from the situation. I feel scared to talk to him about it because he just gets mad. What do you guys think? I feel a little disheartened about moving in together. I think the compromise then is OP has to find a place where them paying half is okay for them, is within their means. If that means having to settle on a smaller apartment to the point where maybe he would want to consider stepping up a bit, that's up to him. But if you're splitting it 50-50, you gotta find a place that you can actually pay that 50-50. It's not a good look though, in my opinion, to be so contentious about this, and they haven't actually even settled down or signed anything. You haven't even figured out a place to live yet and you're already having arguments. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely tricky relationship topic, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.